Lazare is the founder of London Basketball Association. LBA work with around so far and are continuing to work with around 4,000 young people across a number of different boroughs in London, including Tower Hamlets, Chelsea and Westminster, Lambeth, Kensington and Brent. And they are all about using basketball to provide sports education and employment programs, including training up certified coaches and officials. And there's one statistic that from last year that I'm really impressed by, and I just wanted to tell you all. So last year, they in 12 months trained up 83 certified coaches and officials. 76 of those went on to get full-time jobs within 3 months, and 64 of those 76 hadn't had a proper paid role before. So they are doing an amazing thing. And before we backed Tony a year ago, and he is using support from us to employ someone to come and help with sales coordination. So he has more time to spend on building up corporate relationships and corporate partnerships, which we'll ask him a little bit more about in a minute. But Tony, over to you. Please, can you tell us, why did you set up LBA? What was the inspiration behind it, and what has basketball meant for you?
Yeah. Well, firstly, thanks for having me. Great to be here. And it's great to be here. Yeah. So to answer your question, why did I set it up? It was 2012. It was the London Olympics. And if you was in London during that time, I mean, there was just this aura around London. I've never seen it happen again since then either. It was just beautiful thing. And there was all this talk about legacy from the London Olympics. And I actually did a piece there in the London Olympics with LBA. That was one of our first projects. But I had just left the basketball club that I founded, which is called the London Pioneers, which still exists in today's society. So I had some downtime. I'm like, what do I do? Do I follow the passion, or do I chase money? You know, I'm going to finance world type of thing. I was like, let me follow the passion. And one of the reasons was there was a report done, which Steve Bucknell gave me. Now, he's the first Englishman to play in the NBA. And he gave me this report, and it said basketball in London it was an independent report. It said basketball in London was incompetent and territorial. And I just felt like I could help with it, you know, because it can bring quality, consistency, and be a breath of fresh air, you know, and try and help in that capacity. And then so just made a choice, and the rest is kind of history, you know.
What is it about basketball and the kind of unique aspects of the sport that you feel is so strong in terms of addressing some of the challenges that young people are facing at the moment?
Yeah. I mean, even my own story, like if I didn't have basketball in my life, then, you know, it could have gone down a different path very easily. As a young man of color in like the deprived wards of Westminster, Brent, that's where I grew up. You know, there's so many negative opportunities that are very reachable. You know, so if I didn't have basketball pulling me to the other side of the fence, you know, it could be a totally different story. But I knew what it did for me, and I know what it can do for other people that are the same as me. You know, so again, for some reason, I love sport. I love helping people, and I love technology as well. And so to bring those three things into my world, it was just like, okay, let's do it.
Tell us a bit more about when you say what basketball did for you. Can you give
Yeah. And I tell you, I take so much from basketball. It's got transferable skills, right? Firstly, but discipline, you know, being a part of something that's positive, having positive role models. They give you advice. I was pretty much in a single parent household. You know, my mom pretty much raised me. And so like my coach was even like a father figure. And I think a lot of coaches are like youth workers, whether they say they are or not. And so it showed me also like if I put in time and energy into something, I can become very good at that. For example, shooting. You know, you can't make a shot at the beginning. All right, practice left hand, right hand. You can make a shot. Then you can go further back from it, you know. And then you're trying to become like the Steph Currys of the world, who's the greatest 3-point shooter of all time now. But basketball just taught me and showed me, hey, you can not be good at something, and that's fine. But you put in time and energy, you can become great at it.
Why do you think that basketball is better as a sport in helping kind of like teach people broader life skills than something like football?
I mean, I think football and basketball are quite similar on that
Yeah.
scale, but
Or not, yeah, not better, but different. How's it different?
yeah,
Yeah.
basketball's. Wait, just say the question one more time.
What is it about basketball in comparison to football that you
Yeah.
feel it adds more in
Yeah,
terms of transferable skills, and it has more of a, community impact?
yeah. I think for the social impact, it's got this allure to it, right? Even
Yeah,
NBA, the big NBA, which you think of basketball, you think NBA, right? They got office in London,
yeah,
and they've got this allure and this pull, this that makes the sport cool, right?
yeah,
It's one of the best leagues in the world in terms of any sport, and because we've got them, it kind of trickles down right to the grassroots. We see these athletes that look like us, and whether they're male or female, and they can inspire us, And then
yeah,
it's a cheap sport, just like football, but all we need is a hoop and a place to play. It's quite cheap to get involved. Where something I would say maybe like fencing or hockey, there's a lot more gear that you need. Um, and then in schools, it's just becoming so much more popular. Like when I went to school, you might have had a team, you might have played a couple friendlies, but now they've got full-time basketball coaches in schools these days, in London anyway.
yeah,
And it's the fastest growing sport with like 1.5 million young people playing it every week. And it's the second most popular team sport now, but very underground still. So um, it gives us a purpose to put in
yeah,
the infrastructure and allows us to hit our charitable objectives,
yeah.
because yeah, it just reaches some of the hardest to reach. Over half of its participants, which is unique. Sorry if I'm speaking fast here. Like
No,
so much
no,
to say,
great.
some of one unique statistic is over half of its participants across the nation are from a ethnic minority group, you know. And it just reaches some of the hardest to reach. Like, you might have people that are on the cusp of, being a part of a gang or in a gang. You hit the basketball court, you wouldn't believe it. Coach, give me 100 push-ups. They're doing 100 push-ups. Give me 10 suicides, which is like a running back and forth. And they'll do that stuff. They leave the basketball court and they go back to their persona that they had on before they came into the basketball court. And even I'll give this analogy, like if you're walking down the street, if you're like a young black man with a hood, a black tracksuit, and you got a hood and you're not in your neighborhood, you might be like, who's that guy? He's not from our neighborhood. Let's approach him and like, what are you doing around here? But same scenario, if he had a ball under his arm, he's cool. Whoever that is, they're cool. They got a basketball. They're neutral. And it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, I've just noticed that. And whenever you're in London, just after school time, it's nice to see more and more year on year. You see people with a basketball walking home. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. How does the relationship with the coaches really like help develop people? And
Mm. Well, yeah, I just think coaches are just, I don't know if I say underrated or just, they don't get enough limelight, but they are so significant because whoever plays sport, it usually said I had a coach that inspired me and that set the trend, right? Um, but yeah, so important because they're there on time, they're consistent, they are breeding positivity for you and your peers. they I would I remember when I was coaching a lot more. 'Cause I don't get to coach as much anymore, but I've done everything from bottom to top. When I coach, I make a bond with each and every one of my players. They're all unique people, and then you got to be, all right, how do we work as a unit? So, and I think the person on the other side, that they feel that, and they can reciprocate and respond to that in a positive way. So these connections are just super important. It's the difference, in society, for a lot of people's lives.
give us one of your favorite stories about something.
So many, and I ain't even kidding you. Walking down the street, sometimes it's like you can't get too far. But I'll give you one. Guy I coached in high school. He then was playing for me, but then we became teammates.
So how old was you when you first started
I'm gonna
coaching?
say around the 12-year-old mark.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, 12-year-old Mark. And then when he was older, we a bit older, like 18, we was playing in the same as teammates. And then I'd say he was kind of leaning to the other side, that going down a bad path. And I hadn't seen him for a few years, but then he reconnected with us last year. That I need basketball, and that's the thing about basketball. It can be with you for a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
And whenever in need, whenever in doubt, go to basketball, whether it's for health, mental space, fitness, money, So anyway, he said, I need basketball. And then he's like, we qualified him. He done his hours and his placement with us. And then he's now started his own basketball program in his own neck of the woods. And he's come and brought his down to team to play my team kind of thing, LBA team. There's parents there, there's young people there. His mom was there, and it was just, I could get emotional over that, just kind of speaking about it. But, and then, yeah, it's just, and that's one scenario. Yeah.
So tell us a bit more about the different programs that you run at LBA, because you've
Sure.
got a range of different for each
Yes.
different age categories as well.
Yeah, so we have some key programs. So one is like weekly sessions, right? And there's about 500 places, depending on what time of the year, every week where people can go and play basketball, right? And that's a range from young people up until adults as well. But we have a huge focus on young people. 80% of that is free, and I'll probably say 85 to 90% of that is free. And when I say 500 places, I don't mean, what I mean is, if there's one session that has 20 places, that's 20 places out of the 500. And that's pretty phenomenal. And it's just a staple of what LBA does. We've done that from day one. So we're consistent. We've been doing that for 13 years now. We're 13 years old. The second one is like holiday activities. We currently calling it Ball and Eat. So you can come and play from free, and we'll feed you as well. And we do that pretty much every holiday, probably not Christmas time. It's the only time we don't do that. Then you've got the ROC program, where we'll qualify individuals to become ROC is ROC, and R is referees, O is officials, as in table officials, and the C is coach. So we qualify people because there's a huge shortage in the sport. And come to us a few years ago, you need a coach, because everyone comes, I need a coach. Come back in 6 months, come back in a year. We've turned the table. Unbelievable. And I mean, making a huge difference. We're giving out job opportunity to people for £25,000 starting at, like, for a full-time coach, that happened last month. We got kids parties, and so I digress a bit. But the ROC program, we qualify people, and we also have a scholarship attached to that. So if you can't afford it, we have like a payback scheme, which actually is probably the best way to do it, because if you do a course and then you're left to your own devices, you may not actually do anything with it, and there's a huge drop-off rate. So we always design our programs to be super relevant, and we spend a lot of time in the design phase, because that's where the details are that make the difference later. And so if it's the payback scheme, which is a great opportunity, you don't have to pay anything up front, but then you got to do like 16 hours if you're doing a level 2 course. How are you guys doing with this detail? Sorry.
No, it's really interesting. Keep going.
Okay, so you got to do 16 hours practical. Then you got to do your online segment, which you could do anywhere. But you do your practical, that's cool. But then once you finish the course, you got to do, we pay about £20 an hour, which is really good as well. And you got to do a set. So I think it works out to, like, don't quote me on this, about 10 to 20 hours of volunteer hours with us. So actually you get some skin in the game, and actually you work with us, and you're like, oh snap, I got qualified. I actually coached. I can do this. I got paid for this. I can do this more and more. And, then you come to conclusion, oh, actually, I like this working world. How do I make more money? And so it's just been phenomenal to see the ROC program and what it does. And then we've also created what we call the ROC framework, which any basketball organization can copy and paste this template, and adopt the same methods. So, for example, you come to one of our weekly sessions. We call it a scrimmage, which is 5-on-5, winner stays on. Happened last night in one of our venues. I passed by there. Absolutely epic, just to say. So now we have announcements every week. So we give anything that we need to reiterate to the young people. One of the things is, hey, if you're next to go on, so let's say us on this call is on next. So whoever is on the call, whoever loses, come off, and then me and you, Mary, will go on with the next team. But if we're on next, right, we have to be the table officials. So we keep the score, keep the time, and then sometimes we could bring a pro referee down. So if it's 5-on-5, me and you will table. George will be a referee working with our pro ref, getting familiar how to referee and level up. And then if you're really keen, we're like, hey, we'll qualify you. We've got the scholarship, we've got the program. And I spoke to a kid yesterday. He said, and his dad was there, he said, Tony, he's qualified now as a referee. He's been making 35, 40 pounds a game. And he did 7 games on the weekend. Yeah. I said, damn, he must be tired. Running. But he said, nah. Some of the games were like shorter games, so it wasn't that full price for the games. But I said, next week we're gonna use him and say, look, be like this guy. He's got qualified. He's getting dead. People are desperate for referees, Mary, and there's such a shortage. But nobody's really doing anything significant to turn it around, because it's been like this ever since I was playing. The same referees are on the scene, and I don't say that in a bad way, but like thankful for whoever's there. But you need a filter system, and so we've created this whole foundational piece, which ain't for LBA, you know, it's for the people, and it's for society, and it will just hopefully it will catch wind, you know. But we have a duty to allow it to catch on fire so other people can see that flame and then take the flame, you know, so to speak.
How you're obviously incredibly entrepreneurial. And do you want to tell us a bit more about how LBA is funded? Because I know you have lots of different funding.
Yeah. Ooh. So,
Very good.
you know,
Working out ways to make money.
Mary Rose, there's so many aspects to running an organization. It's unreal. People have no idea. That's how I think sometimes. They think they know, but they probably don't know. But to speak about how we funded. So we have a grant writer. His name's Ali, but he really goes by the name of Ali Boumaye, because he just knocks everything out the ring, you know, like just, and he's just very successful. So kudos to him, firstly. So grant writing, we're 80%, I would say, reliant on grants. But our trustees, they've said, hey, we should diversify. So have the rule of a third, right? So a third of grant writing, a third of our own income, and then a third of like corporate sponsorships. I'm like, sounds good, you know. So anyway, we've got a strategy to put that into action. We're really working on the corporate sponsorship side right now. And we've got KP, who started off the back of the Fours funding, who's allowed to not just free up some of my time, but he's been instrumental in putting together our corporate program and how we're going to attain that corporate sponsorship. We are super excited because we essentially want to put ourselves in the middle of the room and with the corporate surrounding us and be accessible, have products and programs.
What sort of corporates are you trying to meet? Is there a particular industry or size, or just?
Well, the short answer is,
no, if anyone has any contacts.
The short answer is we'll take anyone, but but then obviously then you got the ethical side of things, like we don't want like a cigarette company, for example, right? But then we're in London. We're in London. That's the second number 2 in the financial capitals in the world. Like, so let's go for finances. Is one thing that comes to my head.
And what does your corporate program involve?
Yeah. Okay. So there is a few sides to that. So one side is we have we're about in 2025 January, we're going to launch our annual calendar. So I don't know if you know about the Felix project.
The
the Felix, right? They're like a food bank.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Lots of fruit and veg, but then they get the corporates who can come in on any given day if they sign up in advance, put on a hairnet, which I probably wouldn't need, an apron. They say, hey, here's your station, chop up these potatoes, onions, and then pack them and wash them, and then prepare, So that's pretty cool, and that's quite self-filling, right? You can go down and help know that food's going to youth clubs and people that need it. So for us, we're kind of looking at that model and building our own products. So for example, we work every year with a school with SEND, learning special needs. And so one corporate can come in and jump in on that and come and help us. We go into the school, we're like NBA Cares. I don't know if you know about NBA Cares program, but it's like we're LBA. So we're like the LBA Cares program. We go in, we work with full cohorts, and we inspire them during their enterprise week. What can you do for jobs beyond school? And basketball, you can be a rock, and we kind of tell them about this stuff. So that's kind of a short version, but we'll do a quiz, and we'll do a physical basketball session as well to inspire them and invite them to games so they can get a real sense of, okay, this is what it would be, So that's one example. And another is tournaments. We run tournaments periodically throughout the year. So we've got a certain amount of tournaments. You can come down. We need a certain amount of people to do certain roles and get involved, and a lot of companies have volunteer days that they give to their corporates. So that's one element. Another element they told us is you really need to build relationships, right? So we've been doing that more and more. So one program that we've had in the making is our annual corporate tournament. So the NBA, their playoffs, when basketball is talked around the world at its height, is in May. So in May 25, fingers crossed, Mary, we're going to have our first ever annual corporate tournament, probably leaning into you to help promote the word. We'll have a certain amount of companies that can enter teams. It has to be co-ed, males and females on the team. And we may do it in a certain way where every Friday of May, we do a tournament. The first Friday is just for banks. Who's the best basketball bank in the UK? Bragging rights, networking.
Such a great idea.
Yeah.
Nothing better than some competition for a whole lot of people who work in a bank.
Exactly. Let off some steam, and and that is really a way for us to build a bridge with them as well in relationships.
Yeah.
So that was another angle that we're approaching.
You're looking at something.
Yes.
How, kind of going back to what you're doing and the impact of what you're having, which is extraordinary on the lives of young people who are otherwise, often feeling like there aren't many opportunities open to them, or if you had the ear of, I don't know if it would be the education minister or it was somebody really high up in government now, what would you say to them about what they should be doing? What could they, there is, we all know there's not really going to be any money, but what are the easy things that they could do to really change the situation and increase opportunities? And you're having 18 million pounds worth of social value each year. But if it's hard, do you want to explain how you get to the 18 million?
Yeah, okay, I'll explain it. So actually, that was a tool that we used in our early days. Like that was in year 3 or 4 or 5, with a tool called SportWorks, which our partner, which we're a membership of Sported, who's good for organization like LBA. Sported is national. That's sport with ED at the end. And they're a membership organization. They had this tool called SportWorks, and they will tell you the monetary value of the work that you're doing. So, for example, if you had a session on a Saturday evening between 8 to 10 p.m. in an area that is high on the national ranking for crime rate or ASBO behavior, and you had, so you're in a certain postcode and you had, let's just say, young males from that postcode who are likely to get into trouble during that time, then imagine every young person that goes to like juvenile prison, that costs the taxpayer £100,000 per young person that goes there. But really it's like £150,000 because they're likely to reoffend. Yeah. So because of that, if they're with us, we're attributing to saving society X amount, 18 million. And it went up by the third year. It was like 52 million in 1 year we attributed to saving taxpayers' money in society.
Can I just highlight that you'll run on around 300 to 400,000 pounds a year?
Yeah,
creating that amount of value.
Yeah, and that was in year 4,
yeah,
5, right? We don't use that tool anymore. It's no longer in use, but yeah, it would be great to have another tool where it has the monetary value, which I think someone said they have something coming out. I don't know if it was a 4.
I think it's we are about to launch a pilot of something which absolutely it's going to be piloting, and then when we know it works, we're going to it more widely. But yeah, so going back to what would you say if you had the ear of a sports minister or and I think it is the education minister, what would you say to her?
Do you know, I think what's her name? Is it Catherine Hodge? I can't remember who it is, but I know I'd say, look, we kind of need the big brother persona or big sister persona, however you want to call it. But because if LBA walks into a room, we're kind of like, we're not an NBA, we're not a Nike, we're not an Adidas, we're a community organization on 300,000-400,000 a year. So they just look at us and don't really give us credibility, but actually we're able to maneuver probably a lot quicker and agile. And like, we're trying to work more with the national governing bodies, because what we're doing, again, it's not really for us, it's for the people, for society. And you can actually replicate it in other sports. But what we're doing isn't being, the governing bodies, they want to work with us. That's the sense that we get. They talk to us, they reach out to us, they call us, but then nothing becomes of it. So if I'm speaking to the person you just said, I'm gonna say, get us across the line. Because there's no real reason for it not to happen. And everyone said that, but it hasn't happened.
Yeah, so just almost just some pressure on the
be in the email,
pick up the phone, governing bodies and saying, look, you need to do more with working with the community and younger people. And
yes. So that's the short answer. I would say yes. I remember when we got funded first time from the GLA with the Young Londoners Fund, they used to have these meetings, but then COVID hit, so everything went virtual. But I was just getting warmed up with City Hall, Mary. I mean, it felt good to be there. I felt, like I could represent, and oh man, but then COVID hit. So bring those meetings back again with City Hall. I would like to bring basketball down there, like a entourage, and have basketball's presence in the rooms, and bring us into other rooms, because like there's people doing great work, but if they don't know about it and they're not connected, it's just disconnect. Yeah.
And you know how to engage, and you know how to be a role model and to help people get onto the right pathways. And they need to be listening to you and what is are there any questions that anyone has? Please do jump in if anyone has any pressing questions, and put them in the chat, which I think I should be able to see. But Jan, are you? No, sorry, you were. Another question. But Tony, you are working incredibly hard, and you are clearly an inspiration to 4,000 young people, at least, if not more, on a regular basis. How do you look after yourself? Where do you find your energy from? What is it that you
do? Well, before I answer that, I just realized I could only see George and yourself, but there's quite a few people. That's cool. Hey, everybody. That's how you guys on the call. I had no idea. So to answer your question, I remember I loved the 4 because there's been conference calls with us about, hey, protecting the CEO's sanctity, because actually it's overwhelming at the best of times, right? So 13 years deep, I would say I've got a structure, I've got a methodology, and I meditate. This year has been a great year of meditation, in the sense of most mornings, and I've built it up, over the last, I'm going to say 10 years. But this year's gone up to like 1 hour and 15 minutes at ease, you know, and just quiet the mind, be in the moments, breathe. Because one of my mentors way back, he said the busiest people that he knew, they all meditated. So that is one key thing for, I would say. I do like breathing techniques as well. Wim Hof, I don't know if you heard of the Iceman, Wim Hof, the Dutch guy. He's pretty phenomenal. Bought his course and everything and did it over COVID. Highly recommend. And then I would say what I'd like to do is, like, a friend of mine years ago told me they have like a therapist that they can speak to, just vent, like let things out, you know. And I would like to try that in the future because there's so much going on. Like, it's hard to comprehend it and tell other people because only a few really know what's going on. I say the people in my immediate office, they can see what's going on, right? And some relatives that are really close to. But the average Joe wouldn't have a clue. And it is a lot for charity leaders, I would say.
Tony, one thing that we are in the process of setting up, which might be interesting, is a mentoring program for mentors for chief execs. So that might be, we'll tell you more about it when we get it set up, because that might be really interesting for you. We've had some really good questions into the chat.
Sure.
Jan has asked us, how are you proving your impact and the effective outcomes that you're having?
Yeah, ironically, you got these tools in society like Substance, Upshots, and they're kind of like the normal players, but they're quite expensive and they might not do. Yeah. So what we did was we created our own system, right? To put our data, and a lot of it's automated. So we use it for our weekly sessions, for example. We use Ticket Tailor, which is free, almost free. And when people sign up, all of that details will automatically go to we call it a scoreboards. How do I explain this? So in a basketball game, there's a scoreboard, lets you know if you're winning or losing, right? So we said, let's take that concept and bring it into our world. So we've got multiple scoreboards. For example, one of them is unique participants. So anybody who comes to us, they fill out a form and it will all get pushed to a centralized place. And then our scoreboard for that will take that information and put it in a pie chart. And it will say what your target is for your year versus where you're at in the year. So I don't know if that made sense, but we got different scoreboards for even like non-grant income. We know what our goal is versus where we're at in the year. So we kind of set targets, and then we don't have a scoreboard for every target, but we yeah, so we use scoreboards is what we call them right now. But to kind of answer your question, we developed our own system and we're in year 2 of it right now. Year 1's finished. It was marvelous. Going into year 2, there's some transition issues. So you got to then make sure, how do we make this robust for this year and the year beyond, you know? So we're working through that. But that's one way. The other way is case studies. So we want to get at least 6 case studies a year. One is out about, I think we've got 3 out already this year. And our year starts the 1st of August, just to say, and runs to the 31st of July. So case studies, yeah.
We haven't got very much time, but we'll just do one last question. And to the other questions, Paul will connect you with Tony afterwards. Paul is working in skateboarding and would really like to meet Tony. I hope you'll be happy to do that. But got a question from Ewan asking, what's the most important thing that you've identified that works in engaging young people and maintaining the engagement?
Yeah, so for me, that's quite easy. It's, authenticity, genuine. You want to be there for the right reasons. Like, I went to the room yesterday, and I used to work that for many years, but now Lucas is down there, my colleague, and Philip is down there. KP goes down there. So I don't have to be there anymore. In the early days, I had to be everywhere, right? But now I don't have to be everywhere. So Lucas and whoever comes here, we have these expectations, values, principles, so we got to be here for the right reason. So connecting with them and letting them know I'm here for you. I care about you. And you can just tell by the way I'm here every week, how I speak and whatnot. So that's one way. Again, it goes back to the design concept. We spend a lot of time in the design concept phase of whatever we're going to do, because we always like to be super relevant, ahead of the curve. So for the session yesterday that I went to, that's a free scrimmage for 15 plus in the NW6, which is a rough neighborhood. And it's been going on for 13 years. So to have consistency, care, quality, free, and give other opportunities. I mean, all that's going in there. So we have the rock program there where they get qualified. Actually, this Friday, today, that same group is going to watch a London Lions game, because Jack Petchy gave us money to say go on an excursion, which the young people wanted to do. So like I would say we go above and beyond. And you ask any of them young people down there, they feel safe, they want to be there. Yeah, it sold out in 8 minutes. Was it 8 minutes or so? 8 minutes. So the Thursday we released it 24. The Thursday session we released the tickets 24 hours before on Ticket Tailor. It's free, even though it's so you have to go and buy it. That way we can manage so we don't get too many people. In 8 minutes, 25 slots gone. So making things easily accessible is very important. So we have a WhatsApp group chat where we'll dump it in. Yet tickets are released every week on we have it on social media. Don't forget. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that you and you're smiling looks like you're happy. And just really quickly, Tomasz has suggested the idea of working with universities, because basketball is really popular with them. And I don't know if he has any contacts at universities. That's an interesting one for you to take forward. But we are now at time, and we're trying to be really strict and not overrun for everybody. So I just wanted to say, Tony, thank you so much indeed. It's really lovely to talk to you, and we'll forward you the chat. There's some lovely messages in the chat. But yeah, is there anything that you'd like as a last word you'd like to give a shout out to, or a call to action, or if you know somebody who is doing this, please introduce me just as we finish.
I don't know, just look after yourselves, I know it's a lot, and thanks for being on the call and listening. Would be happy to connect, and charities do the most valuable work in society, and we don't usually get recognized as we should do, I would say. So just keep striving.
Very great last words, Tony. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a lovely Friday afternoon and a great weekend. Thanks, Tony.
I'm going to stay on from